Mark 10:45, and it says, "For even the Son of Man did not come to be served, but to serve." And this is the model of Jesus, and it makes me certainly think of Devin and his heart and passion and compassion for others. So we're here today with Lindsay Nash, owner of Nash & Company in Clarksville, Georgia, and a good friend. So let's talk a little bit about our rock star friend, Devin Gore. Yay. How did you meet Devin, and what's your connection with him?
So really randomly, about a year ago, I was taking yoga, and I was at a yoga class, and I said, I love these little things you have hanging on the wall. How the hell they're closed? And I said, we're considering opening a boutique next door. Who hung these for you? And she said, Devin. That's Sandy's husband.
Yeah.
And I'd met Sandy, and I'm like, I knew she was married, but didn't know Devin. So I said, well, do you think I could hire him to come and hang some things on the wall? And she goes, actually, he's looking for a job in a salon as an assistant. And I was kind of like, that was out of nowhere, but my assistant is leaving to work for a doctor come January, and I'm gonna need a full-time assistant. And she said, well, that's funny, because he's leaving his position at the church in January and needs a job in a salon. So it was kind of a perfect timing thing. So he called me a couple days later and said, can I come in and interview? And I'm like, yeah, let's bring it on in, see how this works out.
So, life has shifted a little bit for Devin, and, he's sort of stepped out, and I guess in a leap of faith, and followed his heart in some areas of his life. He used to lead worship at our church, actually.
Right.
And apparently he's laid down his guitar and picked up some scissors. So I guess he's been in barbering school 2 years, is that correct? About 2 years?
Yes, he's been in barbering school for about 2 years. He actually started 10 years ago. Okay. Got hired to do music.
Yeah, and I didn't know that, actually, that this has been like an ongoing,
long-term passion of his, yeah.
Like not just over the last 2 years, but actually the last 10 years.
Yeah.
That this is something that's kind of been brewing in his spirit. So, best qualities, like what would you say some of Devin's very best qualities are? Hard to narrow those down.
I know it is.
Right.
He's dependable. If he says he's going to be here, he's going to be here. He's one of the most compassionate people, like for anybody. If anybody needs anything, he's on top of it.
What about the work environment? Like, how has that changed since his presence has been here? How's it made a difference just here at work?
He's just so happy.
So what would be 3 words to describe Devin? What would those be? Encourager, I'm gonna say that one.
Encourager, yeah. Right. He's determined. He's determined to get where he needs to be. Exactly right. And once again, compassionate, because he does. He cares so much about other people and how they feel, and I think that's part of why he likes the barbering job is you get to take people from feeling like, transform them into something, and how you feel and how you look are a lot alike sometimes.
I've noticed it a little bit just when I've been in to get my own hair did. What's his interaction with the clients? They just love him.
They love him. I can't tell you how many times people walk by that aren't even clients here, and they come in the door because they see heaven, see heaven and Devin. Right. But they see Devin and come in and get a hug.
So as we mentioned, this has been a step of faith for Devin, and he left something that was sort of a secure position, salary, and I think his wife Sandy. Maybe she's doing the yoga.
She's got a couple jobs, yeah.
So she's having to kind of help. So this journey hasn't been an easy one for him. Has he talked about any of those struggles as far as does he have some?
A little. He's pretty prideful. He's a man and he is strong. But any guy who leaves a full-time job and his wife steps up to work a couple jobs, to make sure that the family's got what they needed, but there are certain things I'm sure you've seen. He's sold guitars on Facebook.
And not to mention the fact that he's going to school.
Yep.
as well. And how many days is he in school?
He's in school 3 days a week, and he's here 3 days a week.
So he's like burning it at both ends
He is
all the time.
all over the place, all over the time.
I know I've talked to you just a little bit about what we're doing here. The Everyday Good is it's just really a movement in this community to go around and find people who are good. With so much craziness in the world. You made me cry.
I'm sorry.
It's good just to look around and see some good stuff and to focus on that. And when I think about Devin, he is the epitome of like the everyday good. What are some immediate needs that you think that Devin needs as he's finishing up with his barbering, because he's about to be finished December maybe?
Yep.
Before he takes his boards and all that. But what are some immediate needs that you think that he would need to get started?
First, to get started, he's got to finish paying his tuition. That's number one. I think one of his family members bought him a new pair of clippers he had been eyeing for a while, which is really cool. But barbers don't use salon chairs, and barber chairs aren't cheap. So barbering chair is pretty big on the priority list.
So the Everyday Good wants to come alongside him, serve him, as I said, link arms to urge him, to spur him on. I think that's what the Bible calls us to do. So we just want to love on Devin, and I just want to say that I could not, this has sort of been a little dream that's been birthed in me. Devin would be our first recipient of trying to do something good for someone, in hope that that kindness and love would be contagious to others. Let us not grow weary of doing good, for in the season we will reap if we don't give up. We're here today with Devin Gore. So thank you. We've had a hard time connecting with schedules, but thank you so much for just sitting down and talking to me. As I shared with you a few months ago, God just laid it upon my heart to start this movement called the Everyday Good. And I was sitting in church one Sunday, thought about you, and you're sort of the epitome of the Everyday Good. You have a lot of stories to tell. You have a huge impact on people's lives. And I know you're sort of in a journey right now. And I told you that I'm doing a story on people who chase their dreams and follow their hearts, and sort of the sacrifice and the joy that goes along with that. And so I think you have a really powerful story to tell. So thank you just for hanging out with me today.
I feel like that bar is really, really high.
No. So if we could, for people who don't know you really, you're a local guy from here, married to Sandy Gore, right?
Yeah.
Yoga extraordinaire.
That's right.
So
It's
have
a
you
couple
lived
doors down.
right? Have you lived here all your life?
I haven't. She's from Clarksville. My family's kind of scattered. So my mom's originally from Atlanta. My dad's from Pennsylvania.
So what's it like sort of living and breathing in a small community, in a small hometown?
Honestly, I never really thought I would end up here. I always kind of saw myself in Atlanta or Nashville or Seattle or somewhere like that. But
not a small town
not a
like
small
Clarksville,
town,
Georgia.
But it grows on you. It's kind of become home. The people here are fantastic. I mean, even here at Nash & Co., this past year has been just proof of being able to find family wherever you find yourself.
Yeah, so true.
And so it's really become home, and I've become really attached to it. And so that's something that I didn't really see coming. But it really has become a place that I love being. I love the people here. So that's been really interesting. Adjustment for me.
You're an artist in a million different kind of mediums. So tell me a little bit. You actually led worship for us at River Point for a while. How did you get into the music ministry, which is sort of what you did a little bit before you started in this?
I wish I had a better answer, but it was really an accident. It wasn't something that I was looking to do. So music for me was a hobby growing up. Being from the South, it was kind of taboo for young guys to be into fashion and art and that kind of stuff, and I didn't really fit in. So music for me became an outlet. And so I really got into music, and as far as ministry went, like I studied philosophy and theology, so I was way more interested in maybe becoming a teacher one day. And then out of nowhere, like I just started getting these phone calls. People wanted me to come and play music at events or services or whatever. And it was kind of odd because it wasn't something that I was really pursuing.
Sure.
It was just doors that were just naturally coming open. So I met my wife, Sandy. I was a youth pastor actually for 2 years. And that's when just randomly started getting phone calls from people to come and play music at these events. And so I was going to school for cosmetology, was newly engaged, and these opportunities started coming up for me to play music. And being young and engaged, I needed like to pay bills.
Need
for
some
the,
security,
you know what I mean?
right?
And these started like helping like supply an income, like to support a family. And so I just kind of followed the doors that were opening.
Sure.
Which obviously doing that I felt just way over my head, and so I wasn't able to finish school. So I just started pursuing that full time, and then that's when the job, came up for me to do music full time.
So, life has shifted a little bit for you, and you've sort of laid down the guitar and picked up some cutting shears. Is that the right word for it? Yeah. So you went from sort of a leadership role in our church to sort of a follower, if you will, of another path. So tell us a little bit about what you're doing right now.
Yeah, so I really did set the guitar down. I went probably 4 months without even picking up an instrument. I think I was just so burned out and just needing a change in my life. I think ultimately, it's something I've thought about recently and had a lot of really great conversations with people, is I think with social media we've become really good at lying to people, like with filters, and then we can like edit a really cool comment section, or a tag at the bottom or hashtags or whatever, that we can kind of doctor our lives, that we actually begin to believe that lie as well.
That's so true.
And so I think it really came down to me being honest with myself, that I wasn't really happy with the person that I was. And even though on the outside it looked great, at night when I was at home, when I laid my head down, like I'm held accountable to myself.
Right.
And so I knew that there needed to be a change. And for me, it was always, wanting to be the best version of myself, to hopefully have the greatest impact on those around me.
Sure.
The position I was in, I was very fortunate. I was very lucky to do what I did. I was surrounded by great people. I got to see a team go from 5 people to like 7 people.
Gosh.
And these people looked to me to lead them to like starting over, like, kind of bottom of the totem pole stuff. Right. Which was, it was humbling, but it was also so like, life-giving.
So what's it been like just to, you said you left the safety and security of something that was just safe to you, and that while you enjoyed it, it wasn't really what was speaking to your heart for sure.
Right.
So, what has chasing this dream taught you?
Wow, it's taught me a lot. I think the 2 things that, if I had to boil it down to 2 things that really just stick out to my mind, is one, you can't do it alone. I'm so thankful for a wife who, when I come home one day after, I'm young, I'm 31, but at 29 I'd already established a pretty successful career doing what I was doing, providing for our family, making decent money, and a fairly respected, position. And then one day just saying, "Hey babe, I think I want to go back to school to cut hair," and she handled it with so much grace and like so much understanding. And so as much as I've sacrificed, I feel like she's sacrificed way more. Yeah,
and she's maybe working 2 jobs now to try
we're both working 3 jobs and a piece, and I'm going to school. So it's been challenging, but what it's taught me is like you really can rely on those people, and you can't do it by yourself. I mean, the other thing would be, it's not as lonely out on the limb as I thought it would be. Going from almost a false sense of security because I was around so many people all the time, that one of the excuses that I used to keep me from making that leap early on was I thought that no one would get it, no one would understand, and that I would just be alone. And what I found is that when you take that step, there's actually a lot more people out there on that limb than you think. And so that's been a beautiful thing, is that it's not as lonely out there as we let ourselves believe that it is.
how do you want this new profession maybe just to impact the lives of others?
Yeah, it's a great question. It's actually something I thought about a lot when there was about a 2-year period where I knew that there was a transition coming. And I knew that being a barber and having a shop one day was kind of the goal for me. But something I struggled with was it was so obvious, the job I was in before, like the difference you're able to make in some regards. And so something I struggled with was, if you're just cutting hair, like how does that translate? And so something that we all know, if you're on Facebook, you've seen videos of barbers setting up at homeless shelters or at schools.
I love it.
And
And
that's
I always
fantastic.
think about you.
And so those are great ways to give back to your community. I think you should, regardless of what your trade is. I think it's our job. I think it's our duty to use our trade, our gifts, to give back to our community. But the ways that really stick out to me that I hope is, one, just on an individual basis. I mean, you have 30 minutes to an hour with each person, and to instill in them confidence, is a goal for me. So I want them to get out of the chair feeling better about themselves.
I read something several years ago. It's really stuck with me, and I just wanted to read it to you. It says, it's by John Wesley.
Okay.
Do all the good that you can by all the means that you can, in all the ways you can, in all the places you can, at all the times you can, to all the people you can, as long as you ever can. And I think that sort of sums up exactly what you're saying right now.
Absolutely.
The Everyday Good is a movement birthed by Jesus himself. And it's just to highlight the stories of people like you. I love your Instagram posts when you cut these people's hair, and then you kind of tell a story that goes along with that. It's so touching, it's so moving. And so when I think about these everyday good stories that are all around us, in our sweet community, in these places in Africa, I think about you. So I've told you the truth in that I wanted to interview and let you shine bright with your story, because I know that you have a huge impact here at Nash & Co., but also you're going to continue to just have a huge impact in this community as well. But we also have a little other surprise that we sort of wanted to do, and a special thanks to Lindsay, who has been a help as well. But
I'm nervous now.
Don't be nervous.
I'm good until
but
now.
But I'll tell you, we know it's been a struggle. We totally get that, and so the Everyday Good would love to come alongside of you, and we know that tuition is due, and we want to do our part in what Jesus calls us to do, which is to link arms with you and come alongside and help you. So we want to help you finish paying off your tuition. We also would love to give you the money that it takes for you to sit for boards. I've been there and done that, and I know that's an expense, so we want to do that as well. And the other thing we want to do, we know that you got to get through with school, you got to take your boards, and then in order to kind of start, we know that you got to have some supplies, and I know you love Victory Barber and Brands, so we want to give you a little something to get started and to get some supplies. And my favorite thing is somewhere to seat all your clients. And so this will just give you an opportunity, Devin, to start out with just a little love from your community who loves you so much. So we are proud of you, we love you, and we're just praying that you continue to live out your calling and to follow your truth. So we love you. From the Everyday Good, we love you.